Hello, everybody. My name is JD Lawson, and I'd like to welcome you to the first podcast for Strange Appalachia. And I'd also like to introduce my brother, Charlie Lawson.
Hey, how's it going?
I guess as an introduction, what we want to do is talk a little bit about what the Appalachian Mountains are, what we're trying to do with this project, and why we're doing it. So, Charlie, you want to hit on any of that?
Yeah, what we're trying to do here is kind of save some of the legends from the Appalachian region. Stuff like common stuff, Bigfoot, the Dog Man, Black Panthers, those things are there. But we also want to hit on other strange things. Like I'd love to take a trip up to Middle Virginia and visit Foamhenge, which is a giant foam uh, Stonehenge replica. That would be an awesome trip to make. Just see some of the weird things around the Appalachian region.
Yeah, for those of you who may not be familiar, the Appalachian Mountains is what we're referring to when we say Appalachia. It's a really long stretch of mountains. It stretches from places like Arkansas in the south all the way up through provinces in Canada. And you'll be seeing here in a minute, if you've not seen it already on the video, a map that sort of highlights that area. And Charlie and I are both local to southwestern Virginia, but at the same time, we'll be starting off talking about some of the stuff from there because that's what we're familiar with. We definitely want to expand out and look at some of the other stuff in that area because the whole area is has some awesome places to go see and some awesome stories to go investigate.
Yeah, the cool thing about it is all these little places, they all have a common almost history. They all share very similar circumstances to how they got their culture, and so the same story can be told in one place. You may go 50 miles north, and it's the same story, but there's a different take on it. The big one is the Wampus Cat. One of the things that I think of the Wampus Cat, it started as a Cherokee legend, but then it morphed into a cultural thing. A lot of people don't even realize that black panthers or wampus cats are cryptid creatures, but they're not recognized by science. Black panthers supposedly don't exist.
Well, at least not in this area. Black Panthers, in other places, sure, but definitely in the Appalachian Mountains is not a place that scientists would, key on as, hey, this is a place you can find these things.
Yeah, it's very strange, but like I said, a lot of people don't even realize that it's supposed to be something cryptid. The word panther is always just associated with large black cats.
Right. So I guess if you want, talk a little bit about how you got started, and then I'll hit mine.
I've just always had a fascination with the supernatural and the paranormal. Done my share of ghost hunting, looking for Bigfoot, things like that. And it's just something that has always really appealed to me. I've always been a pretty spiritual person. I am a Christian. So these stories growing up, hearing about these things, getting out to go out and look for them or try to find them is something that always appealed to me. When I was younger, I kept a notebook, which we've since lost, but I kept a notebook that kind of detailed different stories and different interviews that I did with people, going to the library and research and stuff. So that's where I got my start with it. And growing up with my father, or our father, I guess he's a kind of a mountain man, I guess you'd say. And also our grandparents were,
Absolutely.
yeah, our grandparents were mountain people, and so we grew up, you know, hunting, fishing in the backwoods. It wasn't nothing for Dad to spend months and months at a time in the woods. So you see a lot of weird stuff doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, and Charlie is older than I am by 13 years. So growing up, basically whatever he did, I did. And so I got my start, basically the same way, going out in the woods, seeing stuff. I never really kept a journal of it like he did, but that's one of the reasons we want to do this podcast, these videos that you're going to see later, is to save some of these stories other than just in our memory, other than just a notebook that we're going to put in a filing cabinet somewhere and forget about, or a rat will chew up, or something like that. There are a lot of stories out there that are just really, really awesome, regardless of whether they're true or not. They're just cool stories. So if nothing else, we want to share those, get those out there, and let everybody enjoy them like we have.
And while we're investigation, if we just happen to find a Bigfoot or a dog man, then that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime you can find a cryptid, or even something that's not a cryptid that's cool, um, that's going to be awesome to share. We've got a lot of details, a lot of cool facts about the area that even if we don't find Bigfoot, which odds are isn't going to happen at this point. But even if we don't find evidence of the supernatural, there's a lot of cool information that we can share with people, and they can appreciate some of these areas for what they are, which is just absolutely stunningly beautiful and awesome.
Yeah, we've tried now for a little while to get a YouTube channel up and running, where we try to tell these stories and go out to the areas, but it was something that never really took off. It's something that we can never seem to get right. I know we filmed at Rowan Branch at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. What you'll find listening to these podcasts, and then later on when we get to do some of these investigations, is we're kind of two big goofballs. So we got a lot of stuff that we know and that we can share, but at the same time, it doesn't translate very well to being in front of a camera. I know we went to do a video on High Knob, and we spent about 3 hours trying to film probably 4 minutes worth of video, and ended up just giving up on it and going somewhere else and trying something else because it just wasn't working. It seemed like everything was stacked against us that day, and we'd finally get a good video, and a car would drive by, or a helicopter would move over. So it's really hard to get these videos done out in the woods, and that's when we actually find time to get out and do this stuff. Charlie lives about 3 hours away now, and finding time in his schedule and my schedule and all that to get together to do something like this is getting harder and harder, it seems.
Yeah, one of the videos we're going to put up here in a little bit is going to be the Dogman video we tried to shoot at Rowan Branch. Like I said, we tried to shoot this video about 4 or 5 times.
It's definitely over a year in the making.
Yeah, and when you see it, you're going to think, man, they put a year into this. But that's okay. We always found something different. We always found something weird. Some of it we didn't necessarily put even on camera. I know the first time we went up there, we tracked what was probably a mountain lion and cubs across the top of the mountain for a while. We couldn't figure out what it was, what caused tracks like that, because the tracks were just so huge. And so we showed them around to a bunch of people, and in the Bigfoot community, everybody agreed that it was definitely a dogman footprint. We didn't always take that for what it was, but we thought for sure there's no way that this dogman at Rowan Branch hadn't been seen in years, and now we're showing up, and here it is being seen again. So after we showed it to some wildlife officials, or not necessarily wildlife officials, but people who were also outdoorsy, they were able to identify the track as a mountain lion. And it was weird because we kept finding cat prints, very small cat prints, and so those would have been her litter of kittens that would have been with her.
Right.
That was pretty neat, pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, we spent the whole hike up that morning trying to figure out why in the world there was a house cat climbing up the mountain in front of us.
Very, very cool thing to come across in the woods. Now, we found some other strange stuff up there, but that's probably the coolest thing we found.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that last day, the last time we went up there to film, we had these weird, it looked like tracks is the best way I can describe it. Like somebody had been dragging a stick or something up the trail, but it was in weird places.
It was sweeping. It looked like something had swept as we went.
And as we went up, we just could not figure out what that thing was. And then we got to the top, turned around, started to come back down, and just all of a sudden it became so obvious it was somebody riding a bicycle, mountain biking up in front of us, which that is not a trail that I would want to mountain bike. So if you're the person that was mountain biking out there on Roaring Branch, kudos to you, but not me.
Yeah, it was crazy because we found kickstand marks and we had no clue what even caused those until we figured out it was a mountain bike. So it was actually two people that were up there. That trail can be hard just to walk on, much less ride
Right.
a bike down. Yeah, it's crazy.
And I will say that's one thing that that I think Charlie and I do very well, is we work pretty well together to figure stuff like that out. You know, some people may look at that and just mark it up to being something supernatural or something weird. They'll document it and they'll use it as proof of something. But Charlie and I want to look at it with a sort of a logical mind and try to figure out what it is, because everything up there has to have some sort of an explanation in my mind. Um, it may be strange, but it should have some kind of a logical explanation in it. And that's what we're looking for most of the time when we go out. And 9 times out of 10, we come up with some kind of a plausible answer for it.
Yeah, it's been very rare that we've not found something about it. I know the last time or time before last we went out trying to shoot a video up at High Knob for they have actually it's a Sasquatch sanctuary or Bigfoot sanctuary up there. Wood booger is the term they'll use,
Right.
and we were up there trying to film, and we actually had it was either a cat or a fox that kept on screaming behind us,
Yeah,
and
that's if you've never been in the woods and heard that, that's one of the most bone chilling sounds you'll ever hear.
yeah, it definitely spooked us a little bit trying to figure it out. Of course, we knew what it was after a few seconds of just listening to it, but the
Yeah.
initial reaction is, "What was that? Did
You
you
know,
hear that?"
maybe one day we'll get to do a blooper video, and we did manage to. Charlie was on camera talking the first time we heard that thing scream, and it's an immediate. He stops, gets this puzzled look in his face, and asks, "What was that?" Unfortunately, it wasn't loud enough that we could actually hear it on the camera, so we don't have the audio of that. But you can tell just based on the look on his face that something was not normal there. Something was strange.
Yeah, we have great video and poor audio as of right now.
Yeah, and that's something that we'll work on. Right now this thing is it's sort of a home funded type thing, and it's basically what we can buy within our funds, and that's not a lot. So hopefully, as time goes on, one of us will hit the lottery and be able to do this thing right. But for now, our audio is not the greatest in the world. So please bear with us on that when we do these investigations.
Yeah, we'll get there. I mean, like I said, it's just starting out. So, you want to talk about the dog man a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the first episode that we're going to drop after this is a full on episode that, like we've talked about, took us a year to make, about the Dog Man. Moving forward, you're not going to get very many of these episodes, at least for now. But if you guys, like what you see and communicate with us that that's what you want, we'll be more than happy to go out and do this. But for now, you're probably going to get a lot more of these podcasts. But the Dog Man itself is an urban legend type thing that originated more up towards the north, sort of in the Michigan area. So it's well away from where we are, and it's sort of a Native American legend. But in this area, it originates in a town called Appalachia, Virginia. And basically, the Dog Man is a cryptid that's a dog that walks on its hind legs. I mean, it's very simple. It's very similar to a werewolf. So if you're trying to get a picture in your mind, if you think of what a werewolf looks like, that's sort of what you're looking at with the Dog Man. The difference between the two is the Dog Man doesn't change back to a human form at any point in time. It stays in that one form.
Yeah, a lot of people think that it may even be something demonic or some kind of a spirit being that comes in. I don't know about that, but the stories that I've heard, it's actually something very physical.
Yeah, and what you'll find, for those of you listening, is that a lot of these have some kind of a spiritual origin. A lot of these cryptids that we're going to talk about, But the way I think we're planning on investigating most of this stuff is that it's a physical creature. And the area that the dogman is normally seen in um, lends itself to it being a physical creature because the area is called Roaring Branch. It's a trail, sort of in the only water source that connects a little place called Keoki um, with the main water source, which is the Powell River, and it all three stories take place within maybe a 2 or 3 mile radius right there. Um, and that's the only way that any animal, I don't care what it is, whether it's a bear or a deer or a fox, that's pretty much the only travel path they're going to have access to is right there in that Roaring Branch Trail. Because everything else is so steep and grown up, they're just not going to move around. So the fact that it's seen near that area lends to the fact that it's probably a physical creature, whatever it was.
Yeah, the origin story they have in the area, which it's weird that the area has an origin story, and I hadn't heard the origin story until I'd heard the first three story. But the origin story actually says that its mother was a witch that lived in Appalachia, and that she basically gave birth to a litter of puppies through some kind of mountain magic. She's supposed to be an old lonely lady lived up on top of the mountain and, and had a litter of puppies. And when the townspeople found out about it, or real was going off, and both her and her up in the woods. So I don't know what whether you should give that any credence at all. Probably not, I imagine, because there's no record of her. There's no name. You can't even find. Supposedly there was a huge fire, and that's what drew the attention of the townsfolk that something was going on. But you can't find any records of any of that stuff. So if you don't have records, then I tend to not believe it. Just take it as a story. But it's interesting that we have a creature that's spotted and a story about the creature that's an origin story. So
Yeah, and like you'll find out in the video, we've got three witnesses of this thing. One that Charlie and I will put more credence in than the other two, simply because it's our grandmother, and Granny was definitely a lady that would know what she was talking about. Like we said earlier, she's definitely a mountain woman, been all over these Appalachian mountains, and knows everything that lives in them. So if it was something that she didn't know what it was, it was definitely strange.
yeah, she could track and cook better than she could read. So you know, it's what you expect to see at the top of the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah,
So and didn't she definitely didn't drive because women don't drive, that kind of thing.
yeah, she was definitely from an older era for
For
sure.
sure. So make sure to check out that video there if you want to hear the stories. Uh, I could recap them right here, but you're not going to get anything that you wouldn't get if you watch the video. So
Yeah. So with Dogman sort of being wrapped up there, do you want to talk about sort of what our plans are with the page, the Facebook page and the YouTube page, and what people can expect content wise?
yeah, I think the way we're going to do it is our Facebook page is going to be our main hub for right now. Um,
Yes,
we're going to do
absolutely.
we're going to do updates weekly. Maybe talk about strange news, things like that. I'd love to be able to do a podcast weekly, or at least uh, every other week. That would be awesome. And then
Mhm.
from there, we want to go out and investigate some of the stories if we get a chance. I know there's an area that we keep revisiting on High Knob. There's actually two areas we keep revisiting on High Knob. One, we used to work with a group called Micro, and they called it the Wells sighting area. I think that area has a lot of potential. So we're going to do visits to that area and another area. We call it the Three Fields, even though there's no fields left. It's been logged, but we have had a lot of strange things happen up there, and I would love to investigate both of those areas a lot more. So
Absolutely.
you'll get a lot of videos on that. But anything that we bring up on a podcast, we're going to try to go investigate just to get a chance to go out and look at it. That way we can determine for ourselves kind of what's going on. I mean, a lot of times you'll hear stories or you'll watch You'll watch videos of things and you'll think, I wonder what's really going on there. Well, that's the plan. I want to go out and find out what's really going on there.
Yeah.
Uh,
And Charlie was talking there about the doing maybe weekly updates with strange news and stuff like that. Um, we call ourselves Strange Appalachia, but we're not going to limit ourselves on that to just stuff in the Appalachian region. But I know, for example, one of the things that Charlie and I both keep a pretty close watch on are reports of the Tasmanian tiger or the thylacine, not Tasmanian tiger. Yeah, Tasmanian tiger
yeah, that's right.
or thylacine in Australia. With those updates, we're liable to pull in news from just about anywhere. But we're going to keep most of our podcasts and our investigations towards the Appalachian region, mainly because that's where we're at. But those updates, if we see stuff from anywhere else, we may throw it up on there because um, that's just stuff that interests both of us. I know.
Yeah, we another thing to keep in mind too is that we're not a group of people that tend to really believe stuff. It takes a lot for you to prove to me that Bigfoot is real. It takes a lot for you to prove to
Absolutely.
me you've seen something. I mean, I've been out and had people claim everything that moves in the woods is a Bigfoot.
Hmm.
You know, clearly there's a deer there. Anything that even remotely is shaped like a track is a Bigfoot track.
Yeah, we definitely have more of a skeptical approach at that than I think is normal out of the podcasts that I've listened to, at least. So if you got a story or something, we'd love to hear it. And don't be offended if we start asking easy questions because we're trying to rule out the simple basic stuff. So we're definitely of the skeptical mindset.
Yeah, and anything anybody out there that's listening, anything they want us to come investigate, holler at us. Uh, like I said, we don't have a lot of time, but we would love to get a whole lot more stories to go investigate. I'd love to have a
Absolutely.
backlog, just to have a place to go to look for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My wife said I could have 1 weekend a month. So
Well, I'm hoping to get one weekend a month too. So we'll see how that goes.
awesome,
I luckily don't have to deal with a wife for that yet, but you know, we'll work on that, I guess.
awesome. So I guess that's pretty much it. I guess that's all we got to talk about tonight. So JD, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, sure. Want to start off thank everybody for listening. I know this is about somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes of your life you're giving up to listen to us. So we appreciate that. If you like what you hear, hit us with a like and subscribe. That definitely goes a long way to helping us know that we're, being enjoyed out there and we're doing something that's worthwhile. And stay tuned. Go like our Facebook page. We'll give you some updates there. And stay tuned because we'll hit that video of the Dogman coming out here soon, and maybe one or two more after that, and hopefully some more podcasts. But again, thank you for listening. Charlie, anything you want to add there? All right. I guess he doesn't have anything he wants to add, so I'll again sign off for both of us, and thanks for listening.